Hello again. We're here with another text that I transcribed and that I would like to share with you. So, let me just give you a little introduction. So, the talk today that I'm going to read to you is about the nonlinear experience of the healing or awakening journey. And what does it mean? What does it mean? So when we begin, and I think most people who have been in some level of contemplation or inquiry into their human experience and having a desire to deeply go into the experience and unravel it, know what I'm talking about. The nonlinearity implies that different perhaps from our expectation, it's not an A to B to C type of experience. Like, you do 10 push-ups and then you do this and that and you have this kind of result. And then that result stabilizes and you move on from there. So it's not as reliable as we may wish it to be in terms of its movement, in terms of its geography, and in terms of its expression. So on a practical level, let's say you've been working and doing your meditation practice, you're doing your Qigong practice, you've been going to retreats, whatever you've been drawn to get support, you may have been able to understand certain things, you may have been able to resolve certain reoccurring themes for yourself. And then you have stabilized, and then all of a sudden there's some kind of trigger and it completely unhinges you. And it can be, quite shocking and unhinging, not only the experience itself, but that you actually thought you were at a certain place in your travels. So that's what they're talking about. And they're also talking about why that is, what's the wisdom in it, how to work with it, how to work with this unruly unfolding at times. And we're really talking, we're talking long term. We're not talking about a weekend retreat, or we're not talking about even a week retreat. We're talking about really people who have pursued this as a desire in their own being, to what? To become more free, to become more loving with themselves and with the world. So this is about that. This talk is about this. And before I read it, I just want to say one brief thing. So if it does resonate, I think I may have said it before, I really want to encourage you to listen to it more than once. This is not about presenting a philosophy. It's not an intellectual exercise. But at the core of it, we may firstly approach it from an intellectual perspective, but the core of it, it's a transmission. So it's about how am I going to integrate this information, or what is in this transmission that is helping me to integrate. And so I really recommend, if you feel compelled, to listen to it more than once, instead of just consuming it and then, interesting idea. It's okay. No problem. Don't get me wrong. Everybody has their own rhythm. And the other part of it is that the transmissions are not just rational in nature because they're presented in words, but they are energetic in nature. So, for example, my experience in terms of channeling this material, it's like I receive this information energetically, and then it translates in my being into words so I can communicate it with the world. But when you're listening to it in and of itself, you will also be receiving that energetic transmission. And that's, part of the challenge for me, to learn how to read it, to really also put it appropriately, to fulfill that aspect of it, even though it's already built into the rhythm of the words themselves. Okay. So, and again, if you feel inclined, please share it or subscribe or like. It affects the algorithm, and that means other people will be able to have access to it. Because what are these things about? They're about supporting people who are on this quest, no matter where you're at, what stage you're at in this quest of understanding and evolving within this journey of being a human being. Okay, so I'm going to read this. And here we go. So I just want to say, just generally, they call me Sangha Kadwa. So sometimes they use that name. So just so you don't get confused. So I just asked a general question, and then they gave this long, intricate answer to support us. Okay, so here we go. Let me just get a little closer to the microphone. What is the word for us today? The word regarding the demanding journey we are on, or at least it feels very demanding at times. Thank you so much for your generosity. Dearest Sangha, we know our words will not always give solace or quick solutions. Nevertheless, we want to bring forth a message for all of you, dedicating yourselves to untying the knot of the human experience, as you say it so perfectly. Thank you. We want to get into the bare bones of the situation, the face-to-face of what you have encountered in this human existence, albeit always somehow knowing, intuiting, and remembering your unburdened, genuine self that is with you simultaneously. It is truly the journey, the pathway of the warrior to become more and more naked and to begin again and again instead of recoiling from the difficulty or acting it out with other to your best ability. On the one hand, this path seems like an ongoing leap of faith, no kidding. Yet those who have wanted to uncoil the nonsensical radio static deeply know and remember the ground of who you are. An interconnected self, interconnected with all, and a unique expression of source energy itself, imbued with your perspective, your gifts to share with the world. Anyone who embarks on this path towards liberation in the human realm simply does because they remember that they are what they have been searching for. The paradox is that for those who somehow do remember the pain of the confusion, the pain of the entrainment is unavoidable and can't be ignored from early on. Nevertheless, sorry, nevertheless, there might be years where you still think that you could get your ducks in a row through creating conditions that promise some sort of salvation, some sort of refuge. But in your hearts of hearts, you already know that it will be futile because the pain of separation is with you. Firstly, separation from the nature of yourself, and therefore, secondly, separation from the world you live in. Everyone, every being has emerged from the great ground of infinite intelligence, or Dharmakaya, or Source, or Creation, or God, and therefore is a specific manifestation of it. No exceptions. So when you come here, you feel the brick wall immediately. You may have wondered, what am I doing here? What is going on here? And it starts from there. No matter how much you first try to be part of it, no matter how much you try to figure out the game and experiment how you could play this grand game of separation. For the ones who have remembrance of your origin upon arrival, like our conduit, you firstly experience the initial shock and the confinement through the body, way before any of the entrainment in this life along the journey will take place. Eventually, you try to trace your steps back with the tools you find. But now, fortunately, after millennia of a very, very, very solid brick wall, through your unwavering desire to find your way home, energies and frequencies have entered this world to help you indeed, to open further towards the possibility to return to your origin without having to leave your body once again, in order to return to your experience as a non-separated self. As arduous as your journey seems at times, you are on a fast track because of your deep heart desire to bring and integrate awakening into yourself and therefore anchor it into this world. In order to remember yourself and therefore create this possibility for others as well. But what does this fast track really mean on an experiential, personal level? It is not a lofty journey of kittens and butterflies and rainbows alone. A human lifetime is very short indeed. So this pathway into healing is like a super detox, and can be volatile. It is not for the faint of hearts, especially at this juncture. The journey has many chapters. The intuitive remembrance, the initial brick wall, the entrainment and conditionings via a collective belief structure, and to top it off, the integration of higher frequencies, i.e., new information, in the body, in the heart, in the mind. It is a whirlwind of working through the obstacles, the traumas, releasing them, and then receiving new and advanced information to leap into new perceptions and findings regarding one's original nature and all of creation that one is surrounded with. Every being's journey will be specific and general alike, but it is a tour de force of sorts. We are not saying it to frighten you, but to bring the necessity of compassion and gentleness with oneself into view over and over again. You know, you have somehow remembered the possibility of reuniting with your genuine self, and yet the journey requires enormous faith. Hence, it has not been done before, not on this scale, and not by beings who largely have to travel this journey by themselves, alone. Yes, it has occurred that individual humans have awoken throughout history, but often those who did were in the lab of perhaps a monastic circumstance or situation, or found a teacher who guided them over many, many decades. This is rarely the case in this now moment. We are here to help and encourage and applaud your warriorship in this speedy and challenging endeavor that you have chosen when you came this time at the end of the evolutionary cycle from third to fourth density. And it is also you who came to help to move this journey forward through your own commitment towards yourself and towards this world. So when you feel phases of turmoil, or that your shadow work never seems to end, or that the healing feels elusive and out of reach at times, remember the intensity of the forces that you are working with, and find rest to recuperate so you can stay in trust again and again and know that indeed transformation is taking place. On top of the aforementioned challenges, we need to discuss the non-linear quality of such a journey, which indeed renders a very individualized experience. One of the biggest illusions in the third dimensional world is the experience of time and space as a linear progression. This experience effortlessly will be applied in regards to your efforts and creates an internalized expectation that therefore the journey towards healing and awakening will be or should be linear in nature also. The expectation is one of reaching a goal that can be attained by following sort of a protocol that will determine an outcome that should be reached within the confines of a predetermined time frame. But this is not so. Firstly, each individual will experience their own specific journey and set up that is not only connected with this lifetime, but many prior incarnations that may be burdened by traumas, unresolved entrainments, even though the remembrance has occurred intuitively, which has led you onto the path in the first place. One of the challenges that may occur within the linear expectation of a soul is that to untie a knot, that certain shadows or conditionings are more difficult to resolve than others, and therefore arise over and over again in spite of the efforts that have been made to resolve them. So one may experience a sense of freedom from contracted aspects of the self for a while, to then find that the next layer of an issue that seemed to have resolved arises once again. Often this experience seems disheartening, and more often than not is met with judgment and constitutes a moment of faith. This layering of dissolution of entrained pattern yet has its own wisdom. though as the totality of the dissolution cannot be fully integrated yet, or all at once. So one may experience this gradual dissolution and integration in order to digest the falling away of certain aspects of the separate self, which gradually need to be digested. Therefore, the journey may at times feel like a roller coaster, which can be unsettling or maybe even translated as failure from the perspective of the ego, who thought one had an ironclad plan to make it out of the brick wall suffering finally. You went left or right, and then you turn up at the same juncture again, so it seems. This journey is tailored to each being from a perspective of what can truly be integrated at a given time. And in that sense, one cannot push the river through the power of will. Albeit one can understand this wisdom principle, and from that perspective simply surrender and allow for the next layer to be revealed, embraced and transfigured, and begin again. Go back to square one. The square one of this given moment. What does this moment require? How can I continue to take a seat in my already existing awareness and maintain or return to my beginner's mind once again? So, from the ego's perspective, this journey feels very unruly and turbulent and quite unreasonable. Yet, what are we working on? We are working on to be completely naked, to be completely vulnerable, and to find refuge in that unreasonably vulnerable state where we need no further protection from anything. We are online with our full-blown, genuine self that is a co-creative expression of source energy. Does source energy need protection? No, of course not. It is simply itself, and wherever it looks, it sees itself. No protection needed. No life insurance, so to speak, no parachute, no emergency kit. But to get to this place requires not only to have unmoored the anchors of conditioned reality within oneself, but one has to become a vehicle that can handle this powerful surge of creation energy itself. So for most beings, if this would occur all at once, one would simply blow a fuse, not only on an emotional, cognitive level, but on a physical level as well. All has to be integrated fully for the next step on the staircase to be taken. Which does not mean that experiences of perhaps oneness, compassion, and heart-centered intuitive decision making will not come online before everything is integrated completely. But the evolution continues, and its path may be unreasonable at times, as its manifestation is not nearly as linear as one expected. Okay, sorry about this. That is why, traditionally speaking, the forcing of Kundalini awakenings have not been recommended, as it can backfire intensely and make the self recoil intensely after being uncoiled in one fell swoop. We hope you take this footnote seriously. But we would like to bring another aspect into this discussion of your nonlinear journey. As you are moving along this path of deconstruction and further remembrance, while gradually moving from third density to fourth density, you are changing your blueprint itself and will therefore enter a more non-linear experience of time altogether. What do we mean by that? The more heart-centered your decision-making process will become, the more heart-centered your way of being will become, the more you have activated your green ray energy, the more non-linear your inner and outer world will unfold. As you are stepping into a blueprint of co-creation that will make pathways available and visible that your separated self could have neither envisioned nor could have decoded prior. We are talking about the experience of what you would describe as synchronicities. You are now able to respond to synchronicities, which will put you on new pathways to support the emergence of your genuine self. Therefore, non-linearity in this sense will become part of your experience, and you will find yourself to be able to embrace it with more and more ease and eventually joy, the joy for the ride. As we like to complete our conversations, always are with words of encouragement. No, the unruly, challenging times of this path require trust, compassion, gentleness, and great love towards yourself over and over again. Albeit also know you have come here to be the warriors to tread on this journey and heal yourself from separation, so others eventually can do the same and the world can be healed. Take your seat. Trust you that you are supported in this unfoldment. So this is the text for today. Thank you so much. And I hope you will find your way into it. If you have questions, you can write them in the comments. I will definitely read them and respond. If you have questions about the content, if you have questions about the integration aspect, this is the work I do with people, is really help to deconstruct these teachings from a perspective of application, how to apply this information. So again, thank you for listening, and we will see you soon. And please share this with others if you feel inspired to do so. Thank you very much. See how we're going to turn it on? There it is. Bye.